sunrise for this region. A friggin' sunrise. Prove me wrong. One of my closest friends that I grew up with, known him since I was 13, sitting here with me right now, Fitz. Whoa, my man.
This is really something to people like us who grew up here and watched the demise of the steel industry back in the late 70s, early 80s, and so many people that had to move away. And many of us have been fighting for years to figure out, how can we provide opportunities to not only keep our young people, but bring more young people here, bring people from all over the world. And, we saw that 100 years ago with the steel industry, and then it went away. This industry that's coming about with the perfect nexus of energy that we produce better than anybody here in southwestern Pennsylvania, the best AI, artificial intelligence university in the country, right here in Carnegie Mellon University. We have all the resources and the people that can build it, the building trades and our construction industry. We have the workforce. We really have it all together, and you really have to give Senator McCormick a lot of credit. He comes in,
Hell yeah.
He comes in guns a-blazing as a brand new senator and puts this thing together. But
hold on, I got to interrupt you there, because here's one of the things I've always loved about you. You didn't turn your back and fold your arms and say, screw him. He's a Republican. You said, over here, my man, let's embrace this.
Oh,
right?
There's no such thing as a Democratic job or a Republican job or an independent job.
Right on.
What we all want as elected officials, as citizens, jobs and opportunities for us and our families, safe, good neighborhoods, quality of life. And again, if you've got elected officials and industry leaders and university presidents all working together for the betterment of this industry and for the economy of southwestern Pennsylvania, hey, we're all in. And I've been that way when I was an elected official and not as an elected official.
Well, you sat with Corbin, got the cracker plant here, and that's what happened. And without the cracker plant, we don't have the furious excitement about natural gas and fracking. Without the fracking, we don't have the airport. It's bankrupt, and we're screwed. And all that plays into the dramatic need for this power to keep these data centers running, does it not, sir?
Yeah, and what's interesting is I think a lot of us, and I was really excited when we discovered Marcellus Shale 15 years ago, thinking that because we've got this competitive energy, because energy is needed so much in so many things that we do in manufacturing, as it turns out, the need for energy, for AI, for our phones, for all the data that we do, the algorithms. You get on your phone to check the weather, to check the sports scores, to check the stock market, to check your email, et cetera, et cetera. The amount of electrical energy and power that is needed is insatiable, and you got to be able to do it efficiently, cost-wise, and cleanly. What's the best way to do that? Natural gas.
I'm flashing back. When we were teenagers and we were at Central Catholic, at the back of the football field, there's this insanely steep hill that we used to run every day to get over here.
The monster, yeah.
We used to run over here to Carnegie Mellon to run on a cinder track.
Yes.
We're so old, and we ran hurdles. So when you would run the hurdles, you would fall down, and the cinder would embed itself in your backside. That's how far back we go here. And then you went to school here.
Yeah.
So you got to be thinking, wow, we're doing some magical stuff here at Carnegie Mellon.
What this institution became, and again, when I came here in the mid to late 70s, they let more people in than they would let somebody like me in now. I'll leave it at that. But they were, even at the time, starting to deal with artificial intelligence. People like Herb Simon, who won a Nobel Peace Prize here back in the late 70s, early 80s, robotics. A lot of these industries were really developed, 30, 40 years ago. I think of someone like Congressman Mike Doyle, who started a robotics caucus in Congress and started to invest in, again, this new technology. What were we going to do to replace steel, which was, obviously going down, the amount of jobs that were lost? We all know that story. And how was Pittsburgh and this Pittsburgh region going to rebuild itself? Well, this opportunity around data centers, when you think of a place that you mentioned, the cracker plant, $10-12 billion investment in Beaver County. There's a data center that's going to be built in Indiana County.
Well, hold on. Talk about Homer City.
Homer City.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We used to drive past there on the way to school.
On the way to IUP.
That's
sure.
right, man.
Yeah.
And now they have 10 billion, brother.
10 billion.
It's like a rebirth.
Yeah, in a town like that, it obviously changes everything. And again, you're talking about opportunity. So when young people used to 20, 30 years ago, grew up here and graduated from school, they were thinking about what city were they going to move to find a job, whether it was Denver or Charlotte or Atlanta or Houston or Boston, wherever it might be. Now when young people are coming out of school, whatever their talents are, they have the ability to stay here. Whether they go to vocational school, whether they go to a four-year university, community college, building trades, there's opportunities for people to stay here. This type of industry, when you're talking about $10 billion in a town, in a county like Indiana County, it's a game changer. More than a game changer, it's revolutionary. And what's happening here today with CEOs from all over the world, some of the richest and most powerful people, not just in government, obviously with the president and cabinet secretaries, some of the richest and most powerful people, not just in government, obviously with the president and cabinet secretaries, right, from the UAE, from Dubai, from everything is flowing into here, and because the opportunities are here. You can get a data center done with cheap, affordable energy. Absolutely. And be able to build it. And in some of these communities, you think about Beaver County. I was with Mayor Walker yesterday.
You'll love him.
Mayor of Aliquippa. Love him. And Aliquippa, which had 20, 30,000 people working at the LTV Works steel plant a number of years ago. He's so excited with a great opportunity right on the river with the water, the energy, the infrastructure, the grid. They're right there. And that's just one area of this region.
Here's what's magical about this stuff. It's not debatable. You were friends with Obama. Not debatable. You were friends with Biden. Doesn't matter here, does it, sir? Trump comes in this room and you fully support what he did here. You have to.
Well, look, if you're going to bring money and you're going to bring economic growth into the region, we're going to help you do it.
Right.
Do I have to agree with everything, whether it was Obama, whether it was Clinton, whether it was Bush, whether it was it doesn't really matter. It was like a couple of weeks ago or a month ago when the Nippon deal was. You're going to bring 2 points. Whether it was, it doesn't really matter. It was like a couple of weeks ago or a month ago when the Nippon deal was. You're going to bring $2.4 billion and invest it in places like Braddock and Clairton and Dravosburg and West Mifflin. That saves a whole industry and thousands of jobs of steelworkers generation after generation. So about energy policy. But for us in southwestern Pennsylvania, an institution like Carnegie Mellon University and with Farnham Jahanian hosting this here with Senator McCormick, it's a partnership. And he would have just as easily done this. He did with President Obama and President Biden. We held many robotics, things here with that administration. So it's really about jobs. It's about economic growth and opportunity and quality of life. And if we can do that in a good way, we're going to support it. If we don't, then or if it's in a bad way, then we're going to fight against it.
Fitz, no hype. This is the legit gold rush. This is legit gold rush, sir.
Absolutely.
Legit.
This is the industrial revolution of 150 years ago that is now the technology revolution, the AI revolution. Again, we are poised with the best university in AI in the country, with the best energy source in Marcellus Shale under our feet, and nuclear, by the way. That's going to be a big part of it. Having Westinghouse here, again, another legacy company that built so much of this country, along with U.S. Steel and some of the things that are part of our industrial heritage. So we're poised here, and one of the things about Pittsburgh and our DNA, and whether it was Governor Corbett or Governor Shapiro, it's about rolling up our sleeves and getting things done. Right on. Being pragmatic. It's not, Senator McCormick doesn't seem to be, more right, more left.
Right.
He wants to get things done, and that's what he's working on.
And as my man here, Patrick, says, leaders lead, my man.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Thanks, my man. Congrats. I know you're part of this.
Enjoy. Going to head back down, and it's really something. So
Governor's headed this way, folks. We'll be talking to him real soon. All right, folks, we'll be right back. From the PJ. live at Carnegie Mellon. They're saying this is the best AI school in the world. In the world. I was asking, just for grins, they accept in their computer science program a couple hundred students, but 1 in 5,000. 1 in 5,000. It's a hell of a deal, man. When my father was a young man, this was called Carnegie Tech, and it was $500. Seriously. It's now, as you know, Carnegie Mellon, and it's 100,000. But as I told my son, my man, you get in here and Daddy take out some loans, because this is where it's at. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the biggest brains on earth are coming up with magnificent ideas and plans for the future every day. And for a guy like me, and Patrick uses AI too, I use it at a real simple level. I don't use it to write things, but I use Google AI. And honestly, if I'm sitting here and I type into Google, I'll just do it while we're live here. If I type in Carnegie Mellon, CMU Pittsburgh, okay? And then it just goes, and it takes a second. And I mean, it cranks out information like you wouldn't believe. And it cranks out facts and figures and data and studies, and it's magnificent. And it's powerful. And I'm sitting here in the media center for the radio folks, and I'm watching the players walk by, and it's an amazing gathering of power. Let me say this, too. I have never seen this much security, ever. And I know there's concern about protests. But in talking to some of my boys in law enforcement, ain't no one getting close to this. No one, no way, no how. There's concern about Antifa protesters, I was just told. There's concern about clean energy protesters, I'm told. Included in that group, Summer Lee and Ed Gainey. I like Ed Gainey. He knows that. I find him to be very charming and engaging. He knows that. I also find him to be on the wrong side of this one. He knows that, which is why he will be sitting home in January. It's very clear that if you're on the wrong side of this, you're on the wrong side of history, because history is being made here. I've got the governor coming up, and why is that important? He's sitting on a panel with Republicans. He's sitting in a room with the President of the United States, and as you know, he has filed litigation against the Trump administration. He has complained about various programs to Pennsylvania that were cut. Yet he's here today, fighting for this, standing tall for Pennsylvania. What's my point? You can pick your battles. You can play along to get along. You can wrap your arms around $90 billion, which will change Pennsylvania forever. Everything that ever happened with the Industrial Revolution for our grandparents and our parents and our neighbors and our friends is happening again here with this AI revolution. And it's real, and it's tangible, and it's right here in the epicenter, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I love that. Coming up next, President of the Chamber of Commerce. Coming up next, the Governor of Pennsylvania. Hang in there, folks. We'll be right back.
This summer, take the road less